Welcome back to On the Move with Victor Shi. This is Victor Shi. It is Wednesday, February 15th. Yesterday, during a press conference, Congresswoman Elisa Slotkin put it best when she said, "You are either for children and young people or you are against them." And it's clear that the Republican Party is against my generation and ensuring we are safe in schools. As the generation that grew up with having to endure mass shooter drills and actual mass shootings, we deserve better, and we will make sure that we have better by voting in 2024. But I think this speaks to a larger, more systemic issue with our current political climate, which is that we really only have one functioning political party right now. Will anything change? And if so, what? Today, I'm grateful to be joined by Dean Obeidallah, host of the Dean Obeidallah Show on SiriusXM. He's a lawyer, a writer, and writes wonderful op-eds for CNN and MSNBC on a regular basis. Today, we'll get to one of them. Dean, it's so great to see you and to finally get the chance to interview you after me being on your show.
Yeah, it's great to be on your show. And Victor comes on my show every other week or once a month. And it's great to hear from you on my show and your point of view as a young man.
Thank you. So we'd be remiss, I think, if we didn't start off by talking about our nation's problem with gun violence. It's something that you and I have talked about on your show, but it's the 5-year anniversary of Parkland, and 5 years later, nothing seems to be getting better. This year alone, we've had already almost 70 mass shootings, and I want to maintain hope that things will get better, but I'm not sure I have much hope left in this political climate. So I'm wondering, do you think anything will get better when it comes to our nation's gun laws at this moment?
If you give up hope, there's no future. I mean, you're in a younger generation. Like I'm a grizzled older person. I've seen a lot, and I still haven't given up hope. So I think what happens when people give up hope, then they stop working to effectuate change because they believe it can't happen. Yep. To me, the greatest power the right has is making you feel it's hopeless, whatever the issue is. And you go like, I can't change it. So I know you're not saying literally that you're going to check out of the system. I just want to say the right forever on issue after issue that I've cared about has tried to wear us down where we check out. We go like, we can't have an impact, but we can. And look, we have to be blunt. I think what you said at the top is perfect. The right views people as acceptable losses in American society to make their base happy. Because if they cared that 100 people die a day involving a gun, about a third of that is murder and about 2/3 are suicides, they would do something because data shows you can save lives. It's like criminal justice reform. They see the data. They see the criminal injustice system we have. They see the disparity based on race. They do nothing because they either actually support it and like it in terms of criminal justice, or in this case, they would rather sacrifice your brother or your sister or your grandfather, your grandmother, then make their base unhappy that they can't get weapons of war on the street. They can't close background check loopholes. You can't have waiting periods, which they put in states, which reduce the use of guns for suicide. It brings down the suicide rate because their use of gun for suicide is almost 100% effective. Yeah. So these are things you can do. There actually are ways to have an impact, and they refuse to do it. And they've made their choice. It's political. It's craven, but it's who they are.
So I want to pull on that thread a little bit, and I'm so glad that you said what you said at the outset, which is Republicans really have one kind of mission, and that's to make us feel exhausted and tired. They throw so much information at us, and I'm sure we can get to this later, but I mean, it seems like Fox News, right-wing media, I mean, they throw so much information. The goal of that really is to get, I think, all of us to kind of shut down as units and to be overwhelmed by this, but we can't, like you said, get tired from this. But I want to ask you more about why Republicans are doing this. It continues to baffle my mind that Republicans can look themselves in the mirror and be okay with not acting on gun violence. And there's a reason why we are the only developed nation with this problem, because we effectively have no gun law. So I'm wondering, can you talk more about that political calculus for Republicans? What is in it for them to not act on this?
To me, there's a direct line between just getting reelected. And it doesn't matter the polls show, let's say 90% of Americans support closing the background check loopholes or having some kind of realistic common sense gun laws that will actually save lives. Really, the energy of the GOP base is opposing that. So for a Republican in the House, they go, well, I'll be primaried from the right by someone who says, this person wanted to take your guns away. They were helping Democrats take your guns away. So that's why it's cold. It's calculated. It's saying, they're literally saying to you that I don't care if your family dies as long as I get reelected, as long as I make my base happy. And it's that cold. And I hope people understand, I'm not spinning it because there's no other way to get it. At this point, there's no other conclusion that can be reached using common sense, because they see the data. They see the same articles you see about deaths.
Right.
They see how in other countries gun laws have worked to bring down the deaths, but they refuse to enact them. They block them, and they demonize Democrats and those who try to save lives from gun violence. So they, in my view, are complicit with every mass shooting, with every death, every school shooting. Blood is on the hands of the Republicans because they know they can contribute to bringing the numbers down. It'll never get to zero. We have more guns than people in America, literally. So you can never get it to zero, but you can bring it down, and they refuse to.
I mean, it reminds me of that one New York congressman who came out supporting a assault weapons ban, and then I think a week or 2 weeks later, he said he's not running for re-election because of the Republican backlash. So I think it just kind of goes to show that this is, like you said, it's all about them wanting power and maintaining power, and their voters haven't caught on to that, which I think is equally as sad.
Well, I mean, the GOP leaders fear their base. The elected officials on the right fear their base. Their base drives them. On the left, I think our elected officials, some of them like us, they do, but they can often ignore us. They're not afraid of us. I can tell you that. It's very rare where a Democrat actually primaries someone and drives them out. There's too many safeguards they have. There's big money politics, big money that'll come in and save an incumbent, more of a centrist Democrat, where progressive Democrats are challenging them from the left. But honestly, they fear their base, and their base is telling them, if you do anything on guns, anything, we're going to primary, we're going to knock you out. And the result is we see more and more shootings at Michigan State. And we will see more probably before this week is over, more mass shootings, probably at another school somewhere. And they don't care. They don't care. You are an acceptable loss to today's Republican Party.
Yeah, we have to hammer that point home heading into 2024, and hopefully we can vote these people out. But I want to turn to a great piece that you wrote for CNN earlier this week on Monday. You make a great argument about what Republicans are doing in the House right now with all of their investigations into Hunter Biden, but they're failing to look at this new report about how Trump and Kushner may have benefited from Saudi funds. First, walk us through this new report from the Washington Post and what it shows us about the possible connection between Trump and Kushner with the Saudis.
Well, we'll take a step even further back. House Oversight Chair James Comer, who was a Republican, sent letters last Thursday to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's brother and someone else in the Biden orbit, alleging that they peddled influence. They make millions of dollars for the Biden family, and they said America demands transparency and accountability. Okay, I want transparency and accountability. So will you be sending the same letters to Ivanka Trump, Hunter Biden, and Donald Trump? And Congressman Comer was on with George Stephanopoulos and made it clear, no, we won't be. But everything's on the table. They won't do it. What the Washington Post reporting actually picks up something from the New York Times that gives us more details. And what I'm going to tell you is, in the Washington Post, it's not spin, it's not opinion, it's fact. During the time that Jared Kushner was in the White House with Donald Trump, as article after article, even during that time noted, he was the greatest defender of Saudi, MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi. And in turn made Donald Trump that as well, where Donald Trump literally publicly questioned the CIA's report saying MBS had directed and ordered the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, a journalist who was very critical of MBS and Mohammed bin Salman, but we call him MBS and the Saudi regime. Trump undermined that. You had Jared Kushner, same thing, undermining it. You had Congress at the time passing a bill to block arms sales to Saudi. Trump vetoes it. Trump approves more weapons to Saudi. It's not supported by public opinion. It's not supported by even some Republicans. Democrats are saying no. As soon as they get out, after doing all that, 6 months later, after leaving the White House, Jared Kushner is rewarded with a $2 billion investment into his brand new company, Affinity Partners. It's a hedge fund, sort of an investment fund. And even though the fund's supervisors said, you shouldn't approve this, MBS overrode them and approved it because Jared Kushner helped MBS so much. They became friends. That's the reporting during the White House. Then Donald Trump, for his payback, they've held these Saudi-backed golf tournaments at his course, which pay about $2 to $3 million in terms of the PGA. We don't know how much Trump is getting. He won't tell us. And he's a candidate for president formally. So if Saudis funding Donald Trump, funding the son-in-law of the guy who's the leading candidate for the Republican Party, and James Comer and the GOP won't look at it at all. So that was the big reporting there. And it's outrageous what is going on. And this corruption, I hope, again, especially for younger people, don't give up. We need you engaged because our system is legalized bribery, thanks to the Republican Supreme Court. And you have this pay for play, garbage. We need laws that ban what we're seeing right now. It's not criminal. I'll say this as a lawyer, unless Kushner knew, hey, go to bat for Saudi when you're in the White House, and then we'll take care of you later. You would need that kind of quid pro quo for actual bribery, but still people know what's going on. They know, hey, defend the Saudis and you'll get rewarded later. So that was one part. I got to touch on Ivanka afterwards, but I'll do it in a second.
Yeah, so I want to ask you, though, because Republicans are obviously, like you said, spending all of their time looking into people like Hunter Biden and failing to look into this. This might seem like a pointless question, but why is that? And if they don't look into this, is there any mechanism for possible investigation or further accountability?
Sure. I mean, we do control the Senate, but the Senate doesn't like to dirty their hands like this.
Yeah.
So they want to be above the House. They won't do it. I will say a week ago, there was a great hearing on Twitter about Twitter at the House Oversight Committee. And they were going to prove how Democrats pressured Twitter to silence critics. Well, the Democrats on the committee brought their own receipts and showed how actually Donald Trump, when he was in the White House, had the White House call Twitter to demand Chrissy Teigen's tweet be taken down because it was so mean and it made him upset. So what they proved through the hearings, and AOC did as well, is that there was a Trump administration trying to silence, using the government action, Twitter, the critics, and that Twitter, what they did is violated their own rules to let Donald Trump spew bigotry like Send Her Back, which violated their rules, allowed him to do it. So Democrats in the House, I think, can use the upcoming Oversight Committee hearings on Hunter Biden to show and have it all blown up there, and the media will pick it up. Well, Jared Kushner got $2 billion through his connections and he worked in the White House. Hunter Biden never worked in the White House. Jared worked in the White House. Donald Trump sort of worked in the White House. He showed up for work occasionally. So you had Donald Trump. And then you have Ivanka. Ivanka, while in the White House, and this is not disputed, I wrote about this when they were in the White House demanding Democrats to investigate. In 2018 and 2019, her company that she runs was granted trademarks by the Chinese government for various things, jewelry, for voting machines. And the worst part is that 3 of the trademarks approved were on the very same day Donald Trump lifted sanction on a Chinese company, ZTE, the telecommunications company. That is quid pro quo right in front of us. And the other trademarks happened when Donald Trump was negotiating a trade deal with China. So they're giving the daughter 16 trademarks while they're negotiating a trade deal. And we know Trump, he loves that. His ego is stroked. Look at how China's being good to me. That is corruption to me. That should have been investigated then. It was being the ethics group was waving red flags about it. I wrote about it then. I had Democratic members of Congress on my show, and I said, will you investigate this? And to be fair, they were saying, look, we're focused on Donald Trump right now. We have the Ukraine thing going on, impeachment. So I get it. But now they have to bring it up. They said Hunter Biden profited from China. He was not in the White House. Ivanka literally, no opinion, folks, no speculation, profited from trademarks while in the White House from China. And her only defense was, well, she didn't personally profit. It went to her company and she didn't know about it. Of course she knew about it. It was in all the papers. Of course Donald knew about it. This is corruption right in front of our eyes. The Trump crime family they crimed right in front of us. And still there is no accountability whatsoever for Donald Trump.
It's so enraging. And I really hope, like you said, I mean, it seems like House Republicans are going to take this up, but the Senate hopefully can take this up because we can't normalize this type of behavior for young people to look at government and to see that this is the norm. It can't be. And I think accountability really matters here. I have one last question for you in the remaining time that we have left, and that's 2024 related. Nikki Haley yesterday announced her run for the presidency, and in her ad, she said that she wants to see a new generation of leadership, which is laughable. And I think Joyce Vance said it perfectly when she said on Twitter, it's ironic that she wants a new generation of leadership when she worked for people like Trump and the Trump administration. And I'm wondering, how big of a threat do you think Nikki Haley poses in this Republican field, and what should we make of her run?
Look, she's running. She's an ambitious person. If she was a Democrat and progressive, I think that we could be excited about her. But the fact is she touts the exact same policy as Donald Trump. She's even said she has no policy disagreements. And so she's down with the bigotry. What's interesting is if Nikki Haley becomes a threat to Donald Trump at all and criticizes Donald Trump, she will be subject to vile bigotry from the MAGA wing of the party, the most racist stuff. And I don't think Nikki Haley will stand up and say, look what I'm getting from Trump supporters. Instead, she'll gladly pivot to blame the left and wokeness for what we're about. I suppose she could play a role in this and stand up against the bigotry of the of the GOP base. I doubt it. Not one Republican's ever won a presidential primary in the GOP in the history of their party. So it says a lot. They have gender issues. They have race issues. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. She's not really a threat, but if she's perceived as a threat, she will be tarred and feathered with the most vile stuff from the right. I hope she calls it out.
I really hope so too. Dean Obeidallah, thank you so much for joining us this morning and shedding light on the Trump Saudi report and also just helping us make sense of the news of the day. It's always great to talk with you.
Nice chatting with you as well. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much. So I hope we all pay attention to that Saudi report, and hopefully the Senate will make some moves to investigate, because this is concerning for all of us. And I think it should enrage and alarm all of us that this is the type of behavior that occurred and is continuing to occur with the Trump and his family. And they're continuing to profit off of what they were doing in the White House. And none of us should be able to tolerate this. This is really upsetting, I think, for democracy, for government, for how we're supposed to govern as a country. And so hopefully the Senate will take this up. But in some of the better news of the day, yesterday, President Biden, or I guess the Senate, confirmed President Biden's 100th judge. This is great news. This is outpacing Trump during his administration at this point. And I think it's yet another indication this is an administration that has appointed and nominated a diverse bench, a bench that really is different from any other bench that we've seen in American history, certainly from that of Trump. Right now, we're seeing the most diverse bench. We're seeing people who are actually qualified. We're seeing public defenders, people who have real lived experiences, and who can go into the courtroom and offer something new and fresh. And so I'm really comforted by this. And it's yet another indication, I think, for Democrats that have traditionally kind of put courts aside and the priority of the courts aside, when Republicans have really spent all their time over the past decades trying to nominate and appoint far-right judicial justices who have, taken us to this point where we have abortion now being overturned. I think for Democrats, this is a great move, and we should all celebrate this. And for President Biden, I hope he does not stop. This is a great trend, and we need more judges and justices, because that's going to be what President Biden, or part of what President Biden will be known for. These are lifelong appointments. These are people who will serve on the federal bench and really define the President Biden presidency. And so I hope he continues up this pace. It's great news for all of us. And I think, just great news for our legal system as well, to actually have qualified people serving on the bench. So two other pieces of news that I thought were interesting that caught my attention. First was, obviously, the Super Bowl was on Sunday, and there's new reporting that shows that Elon Musk, as the fragile person he is, was apparently really mad that President Biden got more engagement and more coverage on his tweets than he did. So Elon Musk basically sent a Slack to employees and said that he became, quote, obsessed with the amount of engagement his posts were receiving, and were mad that President Biden's post gained about 29 million impressions, and his post, frankly, did not. And so he Slacked a message to Twitter engineers and said, quote, "Any people who can make dashboards and write software, please can you help solve this problem? This is high urgency. If you are willing to help out, please thumbs up this post." And then, what do you know? Musk's posts received, quote, overwhelmed their ranked timeline, and he enjoyed, quote, previously unheard of promotion of his tweets to his entire user base. This is another kind of showing that Elon Musk is so fragile. He really can't handle anyone who does better than him, and he has to kind of prove himself, and it's kind of ruining Twitter as a result. We're seeing more, at least on my timeline, I'm seeing more people from far-right outlets, from far-right channels dominating my For You page or dominating my timeline. And it's concerning, because this is the type of information that people are going to be receiving, and hopefully people don't fall for this, but it's really kind of affecting the algorithm, at least on my end. And I've been talking to people, and I know that their Twitter page and their Twitter engagement simply does not look the same. There are more Twitter bots, there are more Elon bots, and I hope that we can just hopefully one day return to a time when Twitter was not ruled by this crazy maniac, frankly. Speaking of technology, there is an interesting report that Amazon is now out with a self-driving vehicle, and the title of it is called Zoox. It's apparently what they call a robo-taxi, with employees as passengers, not drivers, as passengers on the road. So basically, this is a self-driving machine. It's a fully autonomous vehicle, and it has no steering wheel, no pedals. but it does have room for other passengers. But this is a self-driving vehicle, and I think the purpose of this would be to help deliver packages. So it's interesting that that this is what it's being used for, and hopefully it'll. I think not hopefully, but I think it's planned to be rolled out to the general public at some point. But it's Amazon is now entering the race of self-driving technology, which I think is interesting and kind of just goes to show this is our world, and for better or for worse, this is the type of technology that we're going to be growing up to and kind of dealing with. And so this is an interesting move, and I hope that they get the safety mechanisms right. One last thing that really I thought gave me a moment of levity was yesterday I was scrolling through Twitter, and the legendary journalists Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein got dinner yesterday. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, and it was Carl's 79th birthday. And as we all know, they are the legendary duo that broke Watergate at the Washington Post. And Bob Woodward tweeted this really adorable photo with them, and it was them at a dinner place in New York City. And Bob Woodward tweeted, quote, "We met in the at Washington Post newsroom 51 years ago to work on a story, 51 years of genuine friendship." And, I thought that was just a great heartfelt moment. Two great journalists, great friends, and motivates all of us that, friendship is really important. It's the one thing that we have where we can really count on each other. And so that was inspiring to me and also a heartfelt moment. So happy belated birthday, Carl Bernstein. And Bob Woodward apparently turns 80 in March. And so hopefully we'll see another picture from Carl Bernstein where they celebrate his birthday. But just such a great picture. I hope all of you check that out. It really warms your heart during this time. That's all the time that we have for today. We will be back tomorrow with another episode of On the Move with Molly Jong-Fast, who I'm sure all of you have read or seen or heard. She is out there. She seems to be doing everything. Molly Jong-Fast will be joining me tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, right here on youtube.com/Politicon. And then on Friday, we're going to have an Eric Fagel-Ding to talk about COVID and why we shouldn't blow past COVID right now. There's still a problem with long COVID. There's still a problem with COVID infections. And so hope all of you will join us there. Again, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, right here on youtube.com/Politicon. Don't miss a single episode. Be sure to subscribe or like for our daily episodes and that you don't miss a single one. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching this episode of On the Move, and have a great rest of your Wednesday.